Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Well, football is by far one of the most popular sports in the country. It's enjoyed by children and adults alike, whether cheering on their favorite teams or playing the game. But there is a serious debate going on about the dangers of the sport as we learn more and more about the link between football and long-term brain injuries.
Attorney Larry Wiedemann is with us today to help us talk about this important topic that affects many of us. We can watch the concussion debate play out on the professional level, and Mr. Wiedemann has participated in a lawsuit he believes stems from the NFL's concussion problem. Larry, why don't you explain what this lawsuit is about? Explain why did you, on behalf of these season ticket holders, bring this lawsuit?
I filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of the season ticket holders because they felt, and I feel, that the NFL and the commissioner, Goodell, have cut the guts out of the Saints football team, which is not customary. In fact, it's the first time in the history of the NFL that they have suspended a coach for a year, assistant coach, the players. They have fined coaches and teams, and they have, in the case of even Reggie White with the Green Bay Packers, had a Smash Mouth program where he paid $13,000 in increments to players for Smash Mouth hits. Well, Smash Mouth hits are hits that are designed to not necessarily injure a player, but do as much damage as you can. Mm-hmm. And that was held to be within the rules of the NFL, whereas the Saints, they say, had a program identical. Reggie White was in the Green Bay Packers, got no fine of penalty, and now the Saints, they come in and make these tremendous penalties, which I think is related to the fact that NFL players that have former NFL players who have filed a suit against the NFL for concussions. And I think the NFL is trying to make the public believe that they are very interested in concussion.
All right, so if I may, so your lawsuit is basically saying that the NFL is trying to put on a face that they're serious about injuries in the NFL, when in fact in the past the NFL has treated the very same behavior by NFL players, basically paying bounties basically for injury behavior. They've turned a blind eye towards that behavior, or only given slaps on the wrist for that behavior. But in the Saints scenario, they've reacted all out of proportion to the behavior, because there's pending a lawsuit against the NFL on behalf of people actually injured with concussions. Is that a fair restatement?
That's a fair statement. I believe that they have used the Saints as a scapegoat to give the impression that they are interested in that. In fact, they had a committee appointed years ago to investigate concussions, and it never got off the ground. That's the NFL. And it did nothing. And so now, all of a sudden, and they punish for the first time the ticket holders. If you find a team...
in the Bountygate scenario, they're punishing the ticket holders.
That's correct.
And that's part of the basis of your lawsuit.
Right, because
they shouldn't be punishing the ticket holders. Right. They should be perhaps fining the Saints players who might have misbehaved, but don't punish the ticket holders.
Right, because the ticket holder is well, the money comes to support the NFL and the teams, and to say we're going to give you a quality that you paid for quality, and now you don't get quality.
Right, and so your argument is that it's devaluing
that's correct.
The tickets.
And they could have, if they fine the coaches or fine the team, that doesn't affect the quality of the team, and doesn't affect what the ticket holder paid to see.
Well, let's talk about concussions, because this is a serious problem within the NFL. I mean, we're right now on track to have a record number of concussions this year in the NFL. Give us some perspective and talk a little bit about how serious a problem this is.
Well, there is a number of suits pending throughout the country that former players, NFL players, who have, and they represent 35% of the players who have filed suit for concussion symptoms, post-concussion symptoms, which can be any number of things. And they expect that statistic to go up to 50%. So that gives you an idea of how many percentage-wise people playing sports suffer concussions that are not just a concussion that results in some kind of effect to your health.
Well, we were talking earlier, the strike doesn't have to be that hard. Is that right?
No.
In order to end up with a concussion,
no,
right?
It doesn't. The magnitude of the hit is not necessarily, if you think of the brain is in the skull, and when you stop suddenly, the brain doesn't stop. It's moving at the same speed as you're going. In a sudden stop, it hits against the skull. It may cause a bruise. It may cause bleeding. It may cause much more injury. And medically speaking, repetitive injury, repetitive concussions result in problems.
And just so we're clear, a bruise or bleeding on your knee, that's not a big deal, but a bruise or bleeding in the brain can be very serious.
Yeah, a hematoma, which would be bleeding in the brain, can cause pressure on the brain because the brain is within a solid mass, and so it presses, and that can cause permanent injury.
Yeah, and the symptoms can manifest themselves immediately or over a period of time.
It doesn't. In most cases, insofar as the NFL players, it has shown up later on, and they begin to develop symptomology, lack of memory, Alzheimer's like illness, brain problems, speaking, remembering, and so. But it comes up gradually. But
well, some of the acute symptoms that show up immediately can be dizziness, slurred speech, problems focusing your vision, but the more long-term problems that result from concussive syndromes can be things that we've seen. Look at Muhammad Ali. That's an example you gave earlier before the show. It can affect you dramatically.
Right.
And it can affect your mood, your emotions. It can affect you on all levels. It's your brain which controls pretty much everything, from every functioning of your body to your emotions to everything.
And
so it's a big deal.
We've been talking a lot about professional players in the NFL, but there are a lot of moms and dads out there who are with the kids on the weekend, every weekend, kids who are playing football and on their school teams and youth leagues. I mean, this is really something that affects a lot of people at different age levels.
Yeah, we have, in fact, Louisiana enacted a concussion act. But those acts are just like the NFL enacted a program years ago, but nobody really enforced it. And an act passed unless it's enforced, unless coaches on the playground and parents should be knowledgeable concerning the fact that if my child lost consciousness, or he was, we used to say when I played ball, you got dinged or your bell rung, well, your bell rung was a temporary loss of sense, and that's a concussion. And
well, to sum up what you're saying, Louisiana just passed a law in the 2011 session, which in 2012, I believe, took effect, which basically says coaches on the field, even volunteer coaches, are supposed to be trained. In fact, they're supposed to tell parents and the participants in the sports, the children, about the dangers of concussions, what to do if you have symptoms after your bell is rung, after you get hit in an accident, things to watch out for, and what to do about it, to go get medical attention, to test for it, and so on and so forth. Your concern is, but are they enforcing it? And just like in the NFL, there are rules in place that are supposed to help people. And that's the concern here. They're not enforcing it. People are having concussions. Even the NFL doesn't recognize it.
And parents need to be aware this law does exist. It's the Louisiana Youth Concussion Act. We'll talk a little bit more about it. That's all the time we have for this segment. But Larry, don't go anywhere, because our viewers want to chime in on this discussion. We will take your questions about concussions and Bountygate as soon as we return. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.